We are heading home. Ollie and I are heading home. It was a cold day today. I had stuff to do this morning, so I didn't even personally get on the track till 10 o'clock. We wanted to train. We didn't put Johan, Spend That Money, and Compass Rose DC in sets because they trained a little bit hard last week, and then two of them come back again on Tuesday and went hard. So I didn't want to put them in a set situation on Saturday. There was no need for it just yet. Johan had trained incredibly hard, made a break last week. I wanted to get a look at him. And the other two horses had trained hard on Tuesday. So we went out with them. James and I and Jason went with them. 2:13 last half and 3 last quarter and 30 seconds. Johan got up and beat Spend That Money. It was a windy day, and Johan's starting to get his swagger back. I hope he stays good. He's starting to look real good. So Johan was really good today. Spend That Money was good also, and Compass Rose DC was right there. It was a good training trip for all three of them. They're all ready to go. We have 86 horses going tomorrow. Couple little scratches. We had a little setback with Gray Is the New Red. Now, Gray Is the New Red was one of our top horses. We paid her into the Next Generation Series in Ohio at the start of the summer, and brought her over to... she was jogging on the right shaft, off and on a little bit throughout the spring, and we brought her over to the vet clinic. Wanted to make sure. Right now we're starting to get in a position where the track will be graded soon. There'll be rock dust on it. This is a time of year when we would start sneaking some of them over to Mohawk. It's getting closer to May. So we want to make sure any issues that come up, let's address them right away. Holy Chick, Gray Is the New Red, Keystone Raven went to the vet clinic. We had questions with all of them, and they weren't answered. So first up was Gray Is the New Red. Very similar issue as we found with Cabernet. Possibly a shadow in the ankle area, but nothing for certain. So I guess the easiest way to put it is when there's smoke, there's fire, right? There could be shadows, but those shadows could easily turn into lines and cracks, and you don't want that. So what we did was simply err on the side of caution and say, okay, let's assume it was a line. Let's assume it took that next step and it was a line. Then what? Well, a line would mean 6 to 8 weeks minimum in the stall. Take your time and start back with her. If you don't, you really are rolling the dice with the filly, and I don't want to be rolling any dice with Gray Is the New Red. This is a filly that's going to be a good horse for us for a while, I believe. 1, she's well bred. 2, she's had an incredibly great attitude and work ethic. Doesn't wear a boot, doesn't wear a pole, and can fly. Why would anybody risk anything with that? So she's going to stand in the stall for 6 weeks to ensure that nothing happens. At that point, we're going to re-x-ray. If the vet thinks she needs a little more time, then we're going to put her in the pool. And the reason being for that is that there are stakes at the end of the summer, right? And as I said to one of our clients yesterday about Gray Is the New Red in particular, if she goes out and races good in the last Sire Stakes in Ohio, she could easily make the Consolation. Consolation's still really good money, and a great way to finish off the year for this filly would be the end of the summer stakes, potentially a Consolation, maybe a series here or a couple of races, put together some really good money, and then hopefully have a dynamite 3-year-old, and that's what we're aiming for. That would be a great story with any of our horses. But the fact still remains that there could be something brewing there. We did the same thing with Cabernet. Err on the side of caution, and although there wasn't a 100% definitive proof on the X-ray, I'll defer to the professionals of this, and Dr. Melissa McKee. All of the vets we use are professionals, but Dr. McKee was adamant that there could be something there, and if there could be something there, it's time to stop. And I'm happy that was found, because if we didn't find that, if we just decided, she'll be okay, and keep going, she might have been fine. She might have been rolling past the 3/4 some night in Ohio, maybe a 54, 55 mile, and snapped a pastern or a sesamoid, broken ankle. These are potentially career-ending injuries, definitely detrimental to the overall horse, and if not career-ending, definitely season-ending, and this could play. It's much like me, right? I can fall down, twist my wrist, and hurt it, and I'll recover if I take care of it. But when I fall down in a race, going 35 miles an hour, hit the slam into the track, and snap my wrist, it's never going to be the same again. It's good. It's fine. but it's never going to be the same again. And it's important that people understand the difference. We're trying to do what's best for heavy horses that could injure themselves, right? And I think the easiest thing to do is pay attention. What's going on right now is very important. You saw that I went back to the barn the other day. I do that all winter. I do that when we start the horses. I want to know what our horses are doing all the time. I ask the caretakers, any nicks, any cuts, any bruises, any heat that I should know about. These are things we're trying to avert what could happen next. So a good catch by the vet, and obviously, you know what? I'm going to nip this in the bud right now. There's going to be a number of people out there that are saying, well, you're too hard on the horses. We have people that comment and say we're too hard on the horses, and my take is simple. These are athletes, and my contention is of this. If this was going to become an issue now, it would have become a much bigger issue. That issue wasn't going to go away, right? You could continue to jog this filly and jogger and push it, train her easily and go easy like they did in the old days, and then finally get to the races and race her. But I'm of the belief that issue isn't going away. It's going to sit there and it's going to fester, and it's going to turn into something potentially catastrophic down the road. So by finding this potential issue now, we've potentially averted a disaster with this filly, and I stand behind that. Can go either way, but nobody knows for sure, right? We don't get the look and then go back. So I much rather know that there could be an issue and stop it in its tracks, rather than hope there wouldn't be an issue down the road and blindly go and try and race the horse, and something could happen there. So that's my take on the whole Grey is the New Red issue. For those of you who own the filly out there, don't be concerned. There's nothing wrong with this. It's no different than if the filly... I would much rather what we found yesterday than an issue that Johan had last year. A suspensory issue? Oh. All day long, I would take potential shadows and stall rest over suspensories any day, all day long, and nothing... there was no cracks or breaks found. The potential start of one could be possibly seen. And I'm being vague because nobody knows for certain. But at the same time, if I'm telling you the filly looks a little bit off left hind, she's over on the right shaft, which also would indicate it's a problem in the left hind. You ultrasound and x-ray the entire leg. What you see under flexing that ankle, right, under looking at that angle under a fluoroscope or an x-ray, is that there could be some shadows in some bone density issues in that particular bone, that structure, the bone structure. There likely is. So we're going to head that off right now, fix that. My most important question that was answered emphatically by the vet was, will she recover 100%? What's the prognosis? Prognosis is excellent. She will recover 100%. I did not. So that's the Grey is the New Red story. The issue with Keystone Raven is similar. We had her under a closer look yesterday, ultrasound and x-ray. We found a little chip behind her sesamoid that was painful. What I saw on the track, I couldn't compute because it didn't make sense that she was sore like that off of the heat that I was looking at and the issues I was looking at. What's wrong, bud? I know. So Keystone Raven, we're going to have that chip popped out. A little bit of a time off for her, but that's a good thing. Again, prognosis is extremely good for that particular issue. We'd Holy Chick over. Nothing definitive found. She does have a little OCD in her hind ankle and hock, but they're not in an operable place, and the vet wasn't too concerned with that. They did inject her hock yesterday. I jogged her today. She was a whole lot better. She said, you know what, if you see a positive response, then just back off maybe for 10 days, no training, just jogging. That's exactly what we did. So although there wasn't some awesome news overall, at the same time, nothing horrible, nothing that will negatively impact any of these horses long-term going forward. Holy Chick seemed better today. And then, of course, the little OCD chip will come out of, that little fragment will come out of Keystone Raven. Very easy surgery, moderate downtime. She'll be on the same schedule as Grey is the New Red when she comes back also, I would suspect. So you'll see both those fillies later in the summer. Not a big deal there. The horses trained great today. Johan trained fantastic. James was happy with spend that money. He thought she could have finished up stronger. We come 30-3 in a jog cart into a heavy headwind. So we were marching. I think, you just assume that the horses will beat the horses coming. But I had to remind James that Johan was by far, in my opinion, last year training down. Hey, buddy, we're leaving in a second, okay? By far, in my mind, training down was our most impressive student, a horse that I thought was our best colt training down, our best 2-year-old, and the injury was just heartbreaking to me. And for this horse to come back under circumstances where it was a torn suspensory, hind suspensory re-injuries, at least from what we dealt with forever, was in my mind somewhere near 100%. We dramatically changed the way we trained this horse back. We galloped him, as I told everybody we were going to do. We gave him the time. We adjusted his training schedule. Now, it wasn't what the vet recommended, but at the same time, we had followed the vet recommendations before with hind suspensories, and they always re-injured. So we were going to let the horse do what was natural to him. We were going to let him gallop. We galloped him back to the races. He's here now. He's ready to go. If we were racing, he would be in to go. So far, so good with that leg. It looks perfect. I'm going to have that horse looked at again right before we're ready to go again. We're going to have him ultrasounded to make sure every little fiber of that suspensory is exactly where it needs to be. It has been. It looks great. I'm very, very, very excited. Spend that money in Compass Rose DC. Won't be training tomorrow. They train today. They train very well. So 13 sets, 86 horses. I believe James will probably want to start at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll be talking to Curtis today. If there's some reason they can't, Kelly will post the start time for tomorrow. I suspect it'll be 8 a.m., but it might be 8:30, and it will be a marathon. For those of you out there that follow us and watch, get lots of popcorn, get your breakfast ready, get 2 or 3 cups of coffee ready. It's going to be a marathon tomorrow. About 6 hours of training tomorrow. 13 sets will be starting tomorrow morning. So far, so good. It is midweek right now. The training has gone well. I told you I was going to work on Argento. I did. James is going with him tomorrow, but I've been very, very happy with what I've seen so far. Carry a Big Stick has been much, much better. These were 2 horses I was focused on after last week. They look good. As I promised everybody, I'm going with Broadway Roll tomorrow. I told everybody I go with War We Was Up, and Kevin come up to me and said, listen, can I go with him? I love this colt, and I really like going with him. I said, well, of course, if you want to go with him, that's fine. I just thought maybe you want me to go with him, but you want to go with him, that's great. I like that. You know, here's a guy that's been a horseman forever. I watched a couple of races on the Racing Network. They're showing old replays today. I was waiting for the bank to open, so I stayed at home till 9 o'clock, and I was watching old races. 3 of the horses Kevin McMaster trained were in like the Roses Are Red and the Burlington eliminations and our divisions. This is a guy that's been there and done that. Harry and him both. For him to take the time to go on the site and see the sets, how they were made, then come up to the barn and say, hey, I'd like to go with that 2-year-old. I really like him. Kevin McMaster, when he started, professed 2 things. Wasn't a trotting guy and wasn't a baby guy. Loves trotters and loves babies now. And most true horsemen gravitate towards that, I think. And I think that's unfair to say. I shouldn't say that. I know I do. I enjoy training babies and training 2-year-olds. And I've been very, very happy with what I've seen so far. But it actually made me feel good when Kevin come up and asked and said, hey, you know, I'd like to go with this colt. I like the fact that he takes such pride in his work, and everybody does. Harry does, Jason does, Danny, James. Everybody takes a great deal of pride in what they do, and so Kevin McMaster will be going with War We a long way again, as Amy said, as I babble. What's that?
I played the MLB The Show baseball 16 and